What's up, everybody? Peepo again, and today we are actually going to be talking about something else. A little bit kind of, I guess you could say, stepping down from the advanced techniques that I've been doing in the last couple videos, simply because this is something that a lot of people have been asking me about, which was also on the list to do later, but since so many people are asking me about it and so on and so forth, I figured I would share my knowledge on this predicament that people seem to be having, and that is proper, if not what I would prefer to be how I string my sticks. Not necessarily like how I do the entire pocket, but it actually has to do with whether or not you string it flat, half depth, or actually pretty much ball depth of the pocket. Now, there's kind of variance to each of those, but we're just going to kind of stick to the main three. And the main three are stringing it flat, pretty much so it looks like a tennis racket, like I have here in my display i6 from Thompson Lacrosse. And this one has a completely flat pocket, no real looseness to the leathers or anything. Next, you have your half ball depth strung pocket that you pound out, and this example is Candy, my Burn X on a jewel shaft, and it's basically where this is more for freehand. This isn't so much for your stringing with a ball in it or anything like that. That's freehand, but we'll get more into that in a second. And then you have your ball depth or traddy tree depth stringing, which a lot of people are getting into lately. But so, starting off, the idea behind what you have to do for as far as ball depth is it's more along the lines of your preference. If you're somebody that wants the pocket to be immediately ready to go, or you're actually willing to take up to a month to really break in your pocket perfectly for you or for somebody else, then that's what kind of determines what you're trying to do as far as your stringing for your ball depth or your pocket depth. And so starting off with the three different types of pockets, stringing styles for the three pockets anyway, is your flat one, your tennis racket, if you will. Now, what you basically do, I could definitely make a video and just go all the way through and string it up, but it's more along the lines of preference and just the method, which is what this series is about. And for your flat ones, you want to string the leathers almost as tight as you possibly can. You want the leathers to basically, like if you pull your finger off of it, it basically be like a guitar string, but it doesn't have to be that tight. You want it to be just short of being too tight and pulling the scoop down towards the throat. That's when you know it's getting to be too tight. Before you ever do it for any of these leathers, you want to prep the leathers. You want to stretch them out and stuff like that, just a little bit. You don't want to stretch them out a whole lot. But for your flat one, you string it. You put your leathers all the way through the bottom. Yeah, this one's more for display. I don't actually use this for anything, and I'm not going to teach anybody because I see it as being pointless. So you set up your leathers, and then you actually do your sidewalls pretty much where you think you would, whether it's an 8 diamond, 6 diamond, whatever, how many diamonds you really care to do. And you set it up just like I've done in the other videos, where you have the strings askewed and whatnot so that they're asymmetrical or symmetrical depending on what kind of pocket you're making. And you want to string the pocket, the actual cross lace, all the way down to the bottom of the pocket and to where it's touching the plastic. And then what you do is you undo the leathers some, you undo your cross lace from whatever end, from like if you're doing a symmetrical pocket, you make sure you don't cut the bottoms yet. Once you string it all the way through, don't cut the bottoms yet. and then for your asymmetrical, don't have a lot of extra string on both ends, and loosen the bottom of the leathers and just start pushing the pocket out until it's about ball depth or where you feel you would want it to be. And the same rules apply for your leather prep as for that. And you push out your center ones, you're gonna want them to be a little bit deeper than your outer ones. Make sure that they're even, and then retie the leathers and actually feed through the string on the outermost parts, the outermost tracks, whether it's your symmetrical or asymmetrical pockets. Feed through the string until it's nice and tight to where the pocket seems like it's defined and whatnot, so that there's not a lot of extra stuff going on, and then start breaking it in, start pounding in it. You don't want to, for your flat ones, you don't want to adjust your bottom knots or anything like that, because you need to keep breaking it in, keep stretching the leather, so on and so forth. So that's your flat pocket. And moving on to our free-handed style, which is what I primarily really like doing. This is my favorite way to do it, just because I get the most out of it, in my opinion. So for your freehand one, what you do is you actually get your ball and you put in your leathers. Your center ones are the most important, pretty much. Find your center ones and you take the ball, and when you're to the side of the pocket, you want the ball to be about 3.5 deep. You want to be able to be pretty much center the ball on the sidewall, on the bottom rail of the sidewall, center the ball. And that's how deep you want the leathers. And then for that, when you're stringing, you string through, you make it extra tight or whatever, pretty much your preference again. And when you get to the bottom, you actually want to leave just a little bit of space. You don't want to leave, I've said it before, maybe a 1/2 inch, even a full inch if you really want to. But I usually try and go for about a 1/2 inch. And then you string that so that you can leave a little bit of space. String it all up, start pounding it out, like I've said in my break-in video. And then you actually want to pull in the leathers some. That's why there's space here, so that you can pull in the leathers and actually make the pocket however you want it to be. For the free-handed style, you want to actually string around your hand. So as you're going through the pocket, you're stringing around your hand. If you've watched my live stringing video of the RP3, the green RP3, that's what the style that I was doing. I wasn't stringing around a ball, around the trady tree, nothing. I was stringing around my hand to get my spacing and so on. And that takes a lot of practice. So free-handed is pretty much your master level, even though it's in the middle of the pocket choices for this video. It is your master level. If you can complete any traditional free-handed and it works out practically perfect for you or whoever's using it, then you pretty much nailed it, except for probably maybe working on a couple little things here and there. But free-handed is your master level. Pretty much any of these is your master level, but I consider free-handed to be the most difficult for people to learn. Moving on into your ball depth and your... Oh, before I get into the ball depth, sorry, I almost forgot about this. When you're actually doing your free-handed, if you do it correctly to where you have your ball depth before you pound it out, once you pound it out, it should be at ball depth once you pound it out to where it's supposed to, where you would want it to be, to where the strings can't stretch anymore, so on and so forth. And then that's when you start tightening the leathers. That's how you figure it out that your free-handed is very close to being perfect. That the ball depth is created from the pounding in. Now your actual ball depth pockets, are a little bit different, like your trady tree or stringing around an actual ball or anything like that, or whatever rig, jig, whatever the heck you want to call them. It's a little different. It's different simply because the leathers, if you do not treat them or if you don't stretch them beforehand, your leathers are going to be actually stretching way beyond what you would want them to during the break-in process, and then your pocket's illegal and you can't do anything. What I mean by that is when you're stringing a ball depth or even a trady tree, whatever, you need to leave space down at the bottom. Very simple, very overlooked process simply because people think that it's going to be good. No, it won't. Leathers are going to stretch. They're going to stretch. There's no stopping that from happening. Whether you have your treated, you have my P5, you have beaver leathers from Stringer Shack, or thrown leathers from Throwing a String. It doesn't matter what kind of leathers you have. They are going to stretch. They're going to stretch. And if they don't, there's something wrong with those leathers, because leathers are supposed to stretch. So what you do is you actually leave this little bit of space, again, 1/2 inch to 1 inch, however you feel like it, when you're doing a ball depth pocket, and then you string around all your stuff, leave that much space, string it around, all around, pound it out some, get the shape going and whatnot, and then start tightening the leather some. Maybe, depending on what kind of leathers you're using, whether they're just raw leathers from like Jimalax or Stringer Shack or Stick Doctor, all you do is you tighten the leathers all the way down to those bottom knots, and then you really just start pounding it in. And that should really make it close to being legal for the rest of the life of the pocket. But with your ball depth pockets, I strongly recommend that you leave a decent amount of space between the plastic and those bottom knots. Otherwise, your pocket's going to become illegal, and it's not going to look good, and obviously you're not going to be end up stringing that person's stick any longer. So that's just the overview, guys. It's just simple things that I wanted to go over with you. I know some of my Method Mondays, it's more actual in-depth how you do something, but that's not what this series is about. It's not about tutorials. It's about your methods and your ideas for what you're doing with a traditional pocket. So I've gone over your flat tennis racket pocket, gone over your freehand pocket, and I've gone over your ball depth pocket. All three great methods for how to string a pocket. It's all up to you, the stringer, the user, what works best for you. There is no best version. It's just preference. Again, it's preference. I've seen people do tennis racket pockets that turn out just as good as a freehand or a ball depth. It doesn't matter. Just because somebody that's famous uses a certain method or anything does not mean it is the best. It does not mean it is the only one. You guys need to find your method, what works for you, and then take other aspects from other things and make it your own. I'm not going to hand feed you everything. If that's what you're expecting from me, you might want to just go. So, went over your different types of pockets for stringing wise for your leather depths, and I hope it helped you guys. I know there's something that's kind of tedious to talk about, but it's something that you guys needed to know. So thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you got something out of it, and go string a traditional. Heck, if you don't feel that the traditional is right, take it apart. Don't cut the leathers out. If you have leathers that are actually decent and they're not completely destroyed from you making the pocket, just keep using the leathers. Keep using the leathers. Practice, 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 practice. Okay? Alright. Thanks, guys. I'll catch you later. Like, share, comment if you will. I'll see you guys later.